Grand Rising, beautiful people. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. Today, we are uh, continuing our discussion, our class on what's wrong with the Bible. Uh, we're Numbers 14 and 15 today. So we're going to continue on our journey. Giving about 5 minutes for people to get on here. Once we get going, get people an opportunity to get on, we're going to get started. Hey, share the videos. I appreciate you guys. You guys have done a great job of sharing videos. Growing the channel is all because of you guys that the channel grows. It has nothing to do with me growing the channel. I'm just here as a facilitator, but you guys are the true ones who have been growing this channel in the way that you've been doing so, especially this year and over the last few months. You guys have done an awesome job, and I greatly appreciate all the sharing and everything that you guys have been doing. So thank you so very much for that. Continue to share. Grand Rising Michelle, how you doing? If I see you pop up on here, I'm going to say, I'm going to try to acknowledge everybody who comments every time. Of course, sometimes we get so many comments that I can't keep up. Of course, the first part of this, we're going to stay with the discussion at hand, and then we'll open it up for just other general conversation thereafter. Trying to check something real quick. Let's see, make sure something. Everything is everything. Yesterday we weren't able to go live. It was supposed to be our first evening live, and but we had a situation that needed to be taken care of, so I had to go take care of that. And we'll continue. I thank everybody who sent good energy, good thoughts. Good thoughts. I appreciate all of that as well. Grand Rising. Do I pronounce the X? Exuri? Is it Zuri or Exuri? I'm thinking Exuri. Don't know where you're from, so I might mess that up. Grand Rising Trauma. Grand Rising Michael. We'll know more today. We'll know more today about things. So just waiting. So Exuri, okay. I like to say people's names right. Orion, Grand Rising, how you doing? I got my coffee. I got my cigar. This week, of course, I'm going out of town, so highly unlikely that I do a show on Thursday. I might be able to figure out how to do one on Friday. It's hard doing it when you're at somebody else's house. But I'll try to, I'll see what I can get done. I'll see what we can get done. Okay, great. I'm going to be here for a while. I got to go to the studio. Got to get that podcast done. That's right, Michael. Oh, you're in Texas. Okay. Hell no, I'm drinking black. Caramel macchiato, man. Gotta have it. Yeah. I'm not grown like that. I'm still growing in my coffee. I can't do black yet. There is a Cuban coffee that I can drink black. Matter of fact. But I can only do it like, the Cuban shot. I need to order some of that. Order some of those beans. Yeah, those are good. If you like good Cuban coffee, there's a coffee called Maceda. Now, Maceda is a cigar company, but they also sell these Cuban coffee beans. Oh, it's good. but it's Meceda, Meceda, I think, something like that. But yeah, great coffee beans. They're out of Tampa, Florida. Grand Rising, Debbie. I don't know if I'm gonna take that time, Trauma. Don't know if we're gonna take that time. All right. We're gonna get started today. Of course, we're in Numbers 14. Now, we can't get too far off the subject in the first part. Gotta get in with it. But let me see what Zuri, since this is your first time commenting, I know. In Genesis, now if Eve came from Adam ribs, that would make her his bloodline, meaning brother and sister, meaning there was never an apple. There was never any apple. The son was, if it was any. The sin was incest. They were brother and sister. Anything of your bloodline is related. Now tell me if I'm tripping. Actually, your logic is not tripping. Your logic is not tripping at all. A Christian would then respond by saying that incest wasn't made a sin until I think it was either Leviticus or Deuteronomy. It's during the time of the Exodus, and while they're walking around in circles, that the law against incest became sin, not son. Got you, no problem. Usually I catch those. But it's not that's what a Christian or that's what an Abrahamic person is going to argue, that wasn't a sin at the time frame. Now, if you go back to What's Wrong with the Bible and go into our Genesis 1, chapter 1 and 2, I discuss how this story was pulled from it's in Leviticus. Thank you, Michael. But how this story was pulled from the Sumerian story. And in the Sumerian story, the sin was the fact that she was pregnant, period. That was the sin, that she got pregnant, because in their version, the Adapa and Titi were supposed to be clones. They weren't supposed to be able to reproduce. That was the deal that was struck between Enlil, Enki, Ninharsag, and Anu. So they weren't supposed to reproduce. So when the Abrahamic people lifted this story, that was one of the changes that they made. Numbers is when you start looking at the book different. I started in Genesis. Grand Rising Brian B, my South African brother. It says God made man in his own image and created Adam and Eve and put them in the Garden of Eden. Well, first, when it says God made Adam and Eve in their own image, that was in Genesis chapter 1, and it didn't place them anywhere. It just gave them dominion over all the earth and all the birds and animals. It's not till chapter 2 that you actually get the Adam and Eve story. But most scholars believe that chapter 2 was actually written before chapter 1. And then chapter 1 was them trying to explain how all of creation happened. Grand Rising Marvell from North Carolina. What about North Carolina? I'm headed to North Carolina tomorrow night. So, yeah, once again, anybody in that Wilmington area, I'll be headed to North Carolina to spend the holiday with Angelina's family. So, if you're in the area, and I got to call a friend of mine, we might drive from Wilmington to Charlotte on Saturday and hang out with my goddaughter on Saturday, and then come back home Sunday. So if you're in the Charlotte area, let me find out first. I'll put a video about that one. I'll say so in a video later on today if that's going to be a reality, because the way that joker works, I know I ain't going to be able to talk to him until later on. So where about in North Carolina? Von Seal Lovett Cooper. In Arkansas. Von Seal? Is it Von Seal? Because if I'm saying Von Seal wrong, I'm going to call you Lovett. Only Adam and Eve was in the garden, not Adam and Eve. They were the others on the planet. Yeah, most look at that story to say that there were other beings and people on the planet in the first creation, and then Adam and Eve were a special creation that was put in the Garden of Eden, which that coincides again with the Sumerian story of creating 16 different variations of man first, but none were exactly what they wanted until they created Adapa and Titi. Then they put Adapa and Titi in the enclosure. Eden means enclosure in the Sumerian language. So that's where they were placed. So when Cain went out and found a wife, he wifed up one of the previous created beings that were actually doing slave labor outside of the enclosure. That notification was from yesterday, Brian, about Zoroastrian. So on Monday, on what's today? Tuesday. No, yeah, today's Tuesday. On Mondays and Wednesdays, we're gonna see what it's like to do the show at 7 p.m. But I had a family emergency yesterday, so we wasn't able to do it. Oh, okay. Von Seal. Thank you. But we will do that one probably. Since Wednesday, I can't do Wednesday night since I'm traveling. Tomorrow will be a daytime one around the same time. So we're going to do the Zoroastrian one tomorrow. So we'll do that one tomorrow since I couldn't do it. And then what I had originally planned for Wednesday will get pushed back. Yeah, I know for my Europeans and my Africans and my Australians, I don't that 7 p.m. might be a little bit difficult. The Australians might be all right though. I think 7 p.m. might just be 7 in the morning for them around that time. Where about North Carolina, Marvell? The sun and the moon did it for you. What was the light in those first three days if there was no sun and moon? Oh, God was the light. Then what was the darkness? If God is all encompassing, how can he be dark? If he's all good, how could he be the darkness? Ooh, Orion, it's 123 where you are. Where the hell are you? I love the fact. I love it how international this is. Because I gotta tell you, just when I was a kid growing up, and I was deconstructing from the Bible. Didn't even know that that's what it was I was doing when I first started. Up until around 2006, 7. I was like the only one I knew. Oh, so you're in Australia. What? So it's 123. How in the hell is it 123 and it's 10:54 here? That don't make sense. No, trauma. The darkness wasn't the black people and the light was the white. See, I half the shit trauma say I be wondering if he being sarcastic. So it's 10, 11, 12. Wait a minute. So 10, that's 12 hours. So 13, 14. So you're 15 hours ahead. Where it came, y'all are changing the subject too early. See, we're supposed to be doing the subject matter first, and then we do all this other stuff. If I were to accept this story, well, to look at this story based on his historicity, I would have to then accept that they copied it from the Sumerian story. Copying it from the Sumerian story would mean that that Cain's wife came from one of the earlier versions of of Homo sapiens that the Anunnaki created, right? if you was taking it based on what the Bible is saying and make Cain a real person. Since there were 16 other variations of humans created, but most of them died out, and then there was a few that still survived, such as the Neanderthals are one of the ones that did survive, according to the Sumerian story. So he would have married one of those people. Now, when you look at archaeology, none of this shit is real. There is no Cain. There's no Cain. There was always other people in and around and walking around and doing their thing 4,400 and 4,400 something BCE, which we know the Sumerians were around during then. The Kemetic people were around during then. But the Greeks hadn't become the Greeks, but there were people there, and the Minoans were there. The Chinese dynasties were there. The people in Göbekli Tepe were there, which I'm going to do a live on Göbekli Tepe soon, since new information has come out. But there was like plenty of other people on the planet, 6,000 plus years ago. Dinosaurs, not so much. They had already died out. So Mary and Joseph H did it for you. Messing with children. I'm with you. And Grand Rising Trina, by the way. Grand Rising Mike. All right. We got to start on the info. On the plan. Gotta start. We were there first, though. Let there be white light. White people ain't even white. Like, they're not white. They peach or pink. It's interesting they call Native Americans the red man, but they are more pinkish to red. You remember the old joke? I don't know if y'all ever heard this, because I'm realizing, even though Angelina's like almost 4 years younger than me, there are things, that 4-year gap makes a big difference. But the old joke, you turn blue when you're sick, red when you're in the sun, pale. It's a whole bunch of different things. I'm messing it up. But it's all these different colors that white people turn depending upon different things. And it's like, and you have the nerve to call me colored? But I remember my grandfather telling me that when I was a kid. You remember? Yeah, it went something like that. Anyway, God damn it, we're gonna do 14 to 15. Here we go with today's material. Because we actually got some good stuff in numbers. We actually got a story that's happening at least in 14, and then we get some other bullshit in 15. But so when we left off with in 13, remember Caleb and then the spies had went out, and they came back and they was like, oh, we can't go in there and conquer that land. Caleb was like, yes, we can. But the other 10 spies was like, no. And they gave a false report. Well, first half the report was true. The other half was false. The first part of the report was like, oh, they got 45 walls. The people are strong. But then they got real fearful, and they were like giants. They're giants in the land, which was a false report. The Bible says it's a bad report. So every time people say, oh, they were still giants, it violates the whole thing of the flood story. So they gave a false report, but the false report was a good report, because it was like, those people are fortified. So it's not going to be easy. So we shouldn't attack. But Caleb was like, nah, we got God on our side. So, we should go in there and just take it anyway. Right. Now, of course, for propaganda purposes, Caleb is going to look like he gave the right report. So if you're just a blind faith person, propaganda of this book person, you're going to accept Caleb's version of the story. But if you are like myself, a military person, you will recognize that, okay, if they have fortified cities and they got all this, they're going to be tough. So should we invade? Should we not? What's the best course of action? So they gave a better military report. So this is where we're going to pick up with 14, right? So with 14, we start with, that night, all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt. I know y'all have heard this before. They've done this a couple times. If only we had died in Egypt or in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Stockholm syndrome like a champ. So you want to go back to the place where you were firstborn of your children were killed. You want to go back to a place where you are claiming that you were enslaved, to which you never were. And this is a theme that they have done. They did it in Exodus. They did it in Leviticus. They're doing it here in Numbers, where they want to go back to Egypt with that Stockholm syndrome, because they got a report that was saying that, hey, those people are strong. They're fortified, which is not uncommon for people to think. But of course, this is not going to resonate with this deity. But I think all of that also was a setup for this God to do his egotistical thing that we're going to see later on. Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole assembly, and in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephthah, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes. Isn't there a part, didn't we just read not too long ago that they should not be tearing their clothes when they're in anguish? But we're going to see that this is something that is also repetitive. Every time they say that they're like distressed by somebody who are going against their deity, they rent their clothes, tear their clothes, they start stripping. You know, dollar bills, y'all, they start stripping. But they tore their clothes and and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. Now, isn't this is the zealot, this is a zealot mentality, that you believe that because your deity has determined that he's on your side, even the Bible got strippers, that he's on your side, that you're going to go and face this down anyway. And many people have been defeated in battle because of this mindset of, if God is on our side, who can be against us? When I was getting ready to go to Desert Storm, one of the things that turned me off was we had a pastor, a military pastor, who was telling the troops, the Marines, that God is on the side of America and hates the Iraqis. Right? And I got pissed when he said that. I was pissed. I was an E nothing. I was an E2. And when he said that, I challenged that bullshit. I was like, how can you invoke a deity? I said, would not the Muslims be invoking their deity in the same way? But our God is stronger. Our belief in God is stronger. Our cause is righteous. I was like, we're going over there to fight for oil. It's not righteous. Yeah. But that mentality is still with people today, that they believe that their God is the one that is supporting them. And when they lose, they'll look for some scapegoat reason as to why they lost, some disobedience. Right? This is one of the dangers of religion. Yes, Numbers 14 and 15. I did post Numbers 14 and 15 on the thumbnail, didn't I? Did I post the wrong thumbnail on Facebook? I know yesterday was something different, but we didn't do it. Grand Rising Diana, Sheila, Diana. All right. So continue. But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. You know, stoning is cruel as hell. I'm going to talk about stoning in more detail in the next chapter. But stoning, that is very cruel. One of the best depictions of stoning, if you ever watched the series Spartacus, I love the series Spartacus. But is it the third series, the third season, when they capture Sinuessa, they go to capture Sinuessa. When they're first investigating it, a guy he's stoned, and to see the brutality of stoning is just disgusting. You know, there are easier ways and more humane ways if you want to murder somebody to do it. But they were thinking about stoning him. It's a religion. Yeah, many religions say they don't want true church. Even within Christianity, in all the religions, the divisions always say they are the true ones. They are the real Christians or the real Muslims or the real whatever. Yeah, stoning is crazy cruel. And most of the time, you're going to go slowly. So to continue, then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meetings to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me in spite of all the signs I have performed among them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they." Shouldn't this God had already known, if he's omniscient, that they were going to get to this point and have issues? Should he not have shown them more miracles and power in order to keep them believing in him? I mean, that's what he did to get them to leave. So why not continue to do that? But of course, this guy loves his genocide. So he's angry now. They don't love me the way I want them to love me. They ain't just blindly following me like I want them to blindly follow me. But here's some shit right here that we about to read. Right? Moses said to the Lord, then the Egyptians will hear about it. By your power, you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it. They will have already heard that you, Lord, are with these people, and that you, Lord, have been seen face to face. Remember, it says that nobody's seen this face to face. That your cloud stays over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you put all these people to death, leaving none alive, the nations who have heard this report about you will say, the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised. He promised them on oath. So he slaughtered them in the wilderness. Now, my Lord, now may the Lord's strength be displayed just as he have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation. And according to your great love, forgive the sin of these people, just as you have pardoned them from the time they left Egypt until now. I don't know if you guys have ever read this book. It's a great book. It's a great, great book. I used it to parent my children. I used it as, well, I was originally introduced to this book in the Marine Corps as a method of managing the Marines who were under me, and even managing the Marines over me. And then I used this book to parent my children, and I still use this book today, the techniques of this book. It's called the 1 Minute Manager. In the 1 Minute Manager, you uplift the person, criticize what they're doing, and then uplift the person again. Moses just 1 minute managed this God, this all-powerful, all-knowing, wise, good, benevolent God just got 1 minute managed by Moses, because he played to his ego, then criticized his actions, and then built his ego right back up. And if he's the one God, why is he so concerned about his reputation to other people? It doesn't make sense. Grand Rising Larry, it doesn't make sense. But how can you be the all-powerful God, but a human just 1 minute managed you? Just reverse psychology your butt. This is a man talking to a man. he sounds more and more not kosher. I mean, the more I go back and read, he's narcissistic. And then Moses, uh, got to tell him how to act and calm down. Exactly. Wait till them angels come back and see these women they got now. They're gonna really come into yeah, buddy. If I was an angel sitting on high, I'm about to come down low. Because the women on earth. Yeah, he is the worst. He has the worst parenting skills. Has the absolute worst parenting skill. Yeah, quite evident that it's man-made. Grand Rising. My other Sheila, I got Sheila B and Sheila M in. So let's see what this deity, after he gets 1 minute managed by Moses, what he does then. The Lord replied, I have forgiven them as you have asked. Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt or in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went into, and his descendants will inherit it. Since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn back tomorrow and set out towards the desert along the route to the Red Sea. So it worked. This deity got 1 minute managed. But then even in that, he decided, I've brought these people out of Israel, but yet he's vindictive. I'm not going to allow them to see the promised land because they've doubted me. Dude, you got them wandering around in a desert, barely with enough food. You made them gorge themselves on a whole bunch of quails, on trillions of quails once they complained about eating the Grand Rising Tracy, eating manna all the time, which we know is either insect shit or bird shit. You got to strike stones just so they can get water. These people are out here in like the worst situation. And instead of saying, you know what, I understand it's been rough. We've been through some things. Y'all wavered a couple times, but I've forgiven y'all. Y'all did all the sacrifices for the forgiveness. I'm still got your back. We finna go and kick the Canaanites, butt and get them out of this land because I said I was going to give it to you. The Amalekites, they finna go. We finna, rev it up. Nope. None of you will see it. And I'm going to get to another part of that. None of you will see it in just a minute, but I want to read the part so we have the exact, because there's a number thing about it. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites, so tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. In this wilderness, your bodies will fall, every one of you 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hands to make your home, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. As for your children that you said will be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected. But as for you, your bodies will fall in this wilderness. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness, until the last of your bodies lies in the wilderness. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you've explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I surely do these things to this whole wicked community, which has banded together against me. They will meet their end in the wilderness. Here they will die. I want you to think about this. Now, already in Exodus, Moses said that they were going to be walking around for 40 years. How would he have known that they will be walking around for 40 years? But here we get the actual thing of them. They're going to walk around for 40 years. They said that everybody who was in the census, remember we was going through all them censuses and counting people, and they only counted the men over 20, and there was like 600,000 of them. Now, when you add in the all the younger kids and all the older men and the women, it's estimated this number of population may be around 2 million. So when you then take out the younger kids, you still got well into 1 million people. And yet we haven't found one gravesite of any of these people in the Sinai Peninsula. You got 2 million people walking around. More than half of those people died in Sinai, but yet zero evidence of any of those people dying. Now, if you were 20 years old and counted, this deity just expressed to you that 60, you will not live past 60. Now, when you think about when people say that, oh, these people didn't have long life expectancy. No, many people lived into old age. It's just that they had high infant mortality. They had a lot of women who died during birth. And then they had a lot of people who would die in their 20s, 30s, 40s because of disease and lack of, what we have as far as medicine today. So people still live into be 80, 90 years old in the same way we do today. So that lifespan thing is a lot more. There's a lot more information involved in it. But he just basically said, if you're 20, your max age is going to be 60. You will die before that. Now, here's the other part. If I'm Moses and Aaron, I'm Moses. I went and did all this stuff. I'm Aaron. I'm the leader of the Levites. You just basically told me I'm not going to see the promised land. So later, when we get to the end of this chapter, the end of Deuteronomy, and him and Moses is having this conversation on top of this mountain that nobody else was there to record. Why is Moses acting kind of iffy towards this deity? Because he's telling Moses, this is as close as you ever gonna get to this promised land. Because he foreshadowed it right there. So the Bible scribes, they forgot this part when they wrote that part about Moses dying on top of that mountain with just him and God. But I'd be pissed if I was an Israelite and I'm like, whoa, I'm 20 years old, man. I ain't had nothing to do with all that stuff. I was ready to go do whatever you told me to do. But now you just told me I got to die. I'm never going to see it. And I didn't do nothing wrong. That was the old folks doing that bullshit. Grand Rising, Nikki. So according to their book, nobody can get into heaven on another's merit. How in the hell is it okay to punish someone on another's mistake? Exactly. But they'll then bring up how I think it's Ezekiel or Elijah when it says, Isaiah, one of those two changes it and said, no longer will the sons be held for the sins of the father. But at this point of the story, yeah, that's exactly it. And then they'll go to how Jesus reiterates Isaiah or Ezekiel, whichever one is in. When they asked him about the boy who was either blind or deaf, and it was like, whose sin caused this boy to be blind? The mother or the father? And he was like, neither one of them. No longer. He reiterated that you're not held to the sins of the father. Which is interesting that the Pharisees and Sadducees would still be accepting that when they already had, when you would think they had the writings of Isaiah or Ezekiel, whichever one it is. But evidently, but the Torah wasn't closed until around 400 CE. So everybody, even in Judaism, didn't read the same thing or accept the same books. Do you think 14 verse 25 give the Catholic Church opportunity to make their edicts to go in and priest for forgiveness. The edict to go to priest for forgiveness. Right, not possible to be there for 40 years and no evidence that they were to the Emelians Canaanite or leaving in the valley and turn back. Verse 25. I don't see how that would correlate with the Catholic going to the Catholic priest and asking for forgiveness. I think they get that because people would go to Jesus and ask for forgiveness, and the Pope is supposed to be the vicar of Christ, and then that disseminates through the priest. But I'm not sure about that either. I forgot how old Moses was supposed to be when he died. Yeah, he had some schizophrenia, or he was on some good drugs. Yeah, if I was Moses, I'd been pissed, man. I done did all this shit and don't get to see the promised land. Yep. If you do any makeup, alter your appearance, cut your hair, have tattoos, piercings, yep, you're all supposed to go to hell. But they're under grace now, so that they cut those things out, even though they're still told to keep the commandments. Yeah, I'm not telling the priest any of my secrets. Hell, I don't even like telling myself my secrets. And it's myself, but I got to do it anyway. All right, so let's continue. So the men Moses had sent to explore the land, who returned and made a whole community grumble against him by spreading a bad report about it. But they told the relative truth. The only lie in their report was that they were giants and that they wouldn't be able to defeat them. But everything else in their report was actually true. These men who were responsible for spreading a bad report about the land were struck down and died of a plague before the Lord. So he just killed 10 people. Of the men who went to explore the land, only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived. So the ones who told the truth about what was in the land gave a good scouting report, but did invoke fear as far as them being giants and that they shouldn't do it. They were murdered. They got an MDK, a murder, death, kill. But the one who was a zealot, blind, the two that was blind zealots, they were like, oh, no, it don't matter what we facing up against. No, that's what that sounds like to me. As a Marine, it sounds like to me when I would have conversation with civilians, and they were like, oh, yeah, the military tried to attack Atlanta. We, with all these guns and stuff that people got in Atlanta and not. I'm like, man, we will wear y'all asses out. Y'all got a bad scouting report if y'all think that y'all can beat the military like that. But those are the ones that they say, okay, they great. I don't know what an RC Christian is. Oh, Roman Catholic Christian, I think. It was very effective terror tactic that had a twofold effect. It got rid of any free thinkers and their infected offspring and scared the hell out of everyone else, because if they got that for a minor infraction, what would they do? What they do to you for less? No, it worked back then, and it still works today. And it's all mind games. Yeah, this guy, they changed this guy's mind for the benefit of those in charge constantly. Always. Let's continue. Where was I? Oh, right there. When Moses reported this to all the Israelites, they mourned bitterly, which I would too. We not came out here and then we're going to die out here. Early the next morning, they set out for the highest point of the hill country, saying, now we are ready to go up to the land the Lord promised. Surely we have sinned. So now they feel like, oh hell, well, we can't go. Shit. We repent, Lord. Let us go. Now, this book is always talking about if you sin, just repent. And they got all their process of repenting, Grand Rising Quran. They got all their process of repenting. But nope. But Moses said, why are you disobeying the Lord's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up, because the Lord is not with you. You will be defeated by your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites will face you there. Because you have turned away from the Lord, he will not be with you, and you will fall by the sword. Nevertheless, in their presumption, they went up towards the highest points of the hill country, though neither Moses nor the ark of the Lord's covenant moved from the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites, who lived in the hill country, came down and attacked them and beat them down all the way to Hormah. So the people realized that they was not having faith in this deity. The people cried out in repentance, and then they went to go fight. Moses was like, nah, God already said he ain't supporting y'all in this, and all y'all gonna die here. I ain't even going. And the Ark of the Covenant, some think that it was a weapon, but Moses like, I ain't even gonna take the big weapon. Y'all can't have the big gun. And so they got killed. You would think this guy would have intervened and said, you know what? I see that y'all changed. Y'all different. I'm gonna let y'all, I got y'all back. But no. Why? Because this guy gets to have 40 years of genocide going on, 40 years of killing his own people. And you know how he likes to kill folks. That's like one of his favorite things, is to kill people. You know, but they went anyway. And of course, people will say who teach this book, oh, see, they were disobedient to the Lord. The Lord told them what their punishment was going to be, but they want to be disobedient again. They'll skip the part where it says they repented, that they was in repentance about not having faith in what this God has said to them. But no, they won't say nothing about that. This is why they'll tell you, don't go, if the Lord gives you something to do, don't go against it, stick with it. But what if you repent? Where's the power in repenting then? Because in 15, we're going to get into a whole bunch of, if you sin, this is how you fix the sin, and then he's going to kill some people. Yeah. Wait, you tell me I'm going to lose and I go anyway. All right, he's supposed to know it. He's supposed to know the future. Oh, this deity kills way more people than the devil ever killed anybody. Grand Rising Teddy. Wade, Grand Rising. No, there is no real repentance. The only repentance that you ever need to do is the repentance of yourself when you have done something to injure somebody and you know you're wrong. Or you've done something to injure your own personal self and you go fix it. So let's go into 15. It's going to get a little bit of that boring shit a little bit, but it got a couple exciting things in 15. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, after you enter the land I'm giving you as a home, and you present to the Lord offerings from the herds of your flock as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, because you know this guy he can smell stuff because he's a human. Whether burnt offerings or sacrifices, for special vows or free will offering or festival offerings. Then the person who brings an offering shall present to the Lord a grain offering of a tenth of an ephah, which is about 1.7, 1.9 kilograms, of the finest flour mixed with a quarter of a hin, which is about 0.9 liters. 0.9 liters, so almost a liter of oil, of olive oil. With each lamb of the burnt offering or the sacrifice, Prepare a quarter of a hin of wine as a drink offering. So now we got about a liter of wine to go with this. When I give you the land, you ain't getting it right now, but whenever I give it to you, in 40 years, he's 40 years preparing his. He's giving a 40-year menu, letting you know what he's gonna actually have in about 40 years. Grand Rising LaQuinn. No land or country has been invaded by the in the name of Satan. This is very, very true. What's with the food offering? Like the geisha give food? I never understood, because these religions all believe and do the same thing. They feed their deities. So when people have like ancestral altars, like I used to have an ancestral altar in my house, and I would put some of, you put some of the foods up there that your parents, the grandparents loved and all that kind of stuff. They believe in this feeding. When I was learning about Ifa, that's when I did that, because to learn about something, I participate in these rituals, not necessarily believing in them, but I participate in them. But yeah, food offerings it's been a thing even before this stuff ever started. So let me continue. So a quarter of a wine here. So we got some liquor, we got some bread, and we got some meat. When a ram, prepare a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah, and the finest flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of olive oil. So we up in the game, and 1/3 of a hin of wine as a drink offering. Offer it as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. When you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or sacrifice for a special vow or a fellowship offering to the Lord, bring with the bull a grain offering of 3/10, up it again, of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with 1/2 of a hin of olive oil. So then we got 2 liters of olive oil. And also bring 1/2 a hin of wine as a drink offering. The priest gonna get drunk. We getting fucked up tonight. That was the priest gonna be saying. We getting fucked up tonight. I mean, because they got now that's 2 liters of wine. That's almost 2 liters of wine. This will be a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Each bull or ram, each lamb or young goat is to be prepared in this manner. Do this for each other, for as many as you prepare. So you priests getting getting drunk. Everyone, now this is some messed up stuff. I want y'all to listen to these parts carefully. All right. Everyone who is native born must do these things in this way when they present a food offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. For the generations to come, whenever a foreigner or anyone else living among you present a food offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, they must do exactly as you do. The community is to have the same rules for you and for the foreigner residing among you. This is a lasting ordinance for generations to come. You and the foreigner shall be the same before the Lord. The same laws and regulations will apply both to you and the foreigner residing among you. Now, we're going to talk about what happens if you don't do it. Now, doesn't that sound like colonization? Doesn't that sound like what the United States government did to the 5 so-called civilized tribes, but they're the 5 Europeanized tribes? They turned those tribes into foreigners in their own land, but then made them do exactly what they do, live how they live. I'm coming into your country, you got to do things my way. But even more so, the same mentality that many European Americans have. When a person comes to America, don't nobody want you to keep your traditions. Don't come to America bringing your traditions, your heritage. Convert over to our heritage. And in the transatlantic, and they can just talk it up there. In the transatlantic slave, No, you cannot keep your religion. You cannot keep your culture. You're now in our land. You got to now take on our culture. This passage is easily used to explain and teach colonialism and destroying another person's heritage and forcing them into yours. Please explain this. The Old Testament, in the Old Testament, the chosen sons of Jacob to do priestly duties were the Levites as guardians of the ark. I think Moses was a Levite. He could have been, since Aaron was a Levite. The Levite priests were meant to be pure. The Ethiopian Oriental Orthodox has had a guardian of the ark to be castrated. Doesn't it apply to all other churches in the ancient times? Meaning, did the Jews practice the same? No, the fact that they have him castrated actually means that he is not going to heaven, because it says that a man who, this book teaches that a man who has lost his genitalia, whether his balls, whether through force or accident or doing it on his own, that he can't enter into heaven. So he wouldn't. Yeah, I'd rather know than to believe as well. No, but you weren't able to keep, but that idea of not keeping your culture is right here. Yeah, so eunuchs do go to hell, according to this book. All right, and you weren't able to keep your names. Like, even the Europeans, some of the Europeans who came over, especially the Italians, an Italian American who, whatever their name is, it ain't the same when they go to Italy. I think I told you guys, we talked many times before about how when I got to Italy and one of the guys on my ship, Giordano, he wanted to find his family. And when he was looking, nobody knew what a Giordano was. That wasn't a true Italian name. So he had to go through the process of figuring out what the family's true name was. What you need them balls for in heaven? Hey, maybe they're gonna have some getting it. Maybe they're gonna be getting it on in heaven. Yep. A lot of the Asian, actually, when I meet somebody and they're Asian, like I had this guy who had bought a franchise from me, and what was his name? I forgot his dang on name. Shit, he's still on my Facebook. But he was like, I was like, man, Andy. His name was Andy. I said, your name ain't Andy. What's your Vietnamese name? Name ain't no damn Andy. But then he told me what his Vietnamese name is. So you even got some of them, they just do it on their own. Yeah, there's no sex, according to doctrine, there's no sex, and according to what Jesus said, there's no marriage in heaven, which I wouldn't want to go. No sex in heaven? I ain't going for that heaven. That ain't heaven. We talked about that before. What was it? 112 had the song, I found heaven between your legs. All right, let's continue. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat the food of the land, present a portion of an offering to the Lord. Present a loaf from the first of your ground meal and present it as an offering from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to give this offering to the Lord from the first of your ground meal. So every time you go into a new land, whether you're conquering it or you migrate, you're supposed to offer whatever the new thing is that this land has to this deity. So he got to get first dibs. Yeah, heaven is going to be boring, and that is hell. Now, we're going to get to where what punishments and stuff. Now, if you, we're in verse 22. Now, if you as a community unintentionally fail to keep any of these commands the Lord gave Moses, any of the Lord's commands to you through him, from the day the Lord gave them and continuing through the generations to come. So you're supposed to always do this. This stuff is supposed to be perpetual. So that whole we under grace and you ain't supposed to keep the law, either this got changed or it's a contradiction. That doctrine of grace is a contradiction. And if this is done unintentionally without the community being aware of it, then the whole community is to offer a young bull for a burnt offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offerings and drink offerings, and a male goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make atonement for the whole Israelite community, and they will be forgiven. For it was not intentional that they presented to the Lord their wrong of food offerings and sin offering. The whole Israelite community and the foreigners residing among them will be forgiven because all the people were involved in an unintentional wrong. So if the priests get it wrong or if somebody else gets it wrong, then here's another offering to get it right. So if you mess up, here you go. But if just one person sins unintentionally, because we got to get down to the individual, but if one person sins unintentionally, that person must bring a year-old female goat for the sin offering. So the whole community has got to be a dude. For the individually, a woman a dude. The priest is to make atonement before the Lord for that one who erred by sinning unintentionally. And when atonement has been made, that person will be forgiven. One of the same law applies to everyone who sins unintentionally, whether a native-born Israelite or a foreigner residing among you. So if you accidentally sin, which I don't know how you accidentally sin, that's like when a guy cheats on his woman, and he said, what, did you just slip up and fall into her poom poom? You accidentally cheated? How do you accidentally sin? You know, how do you accidentally not do what this did? All sins would be intentional according to this book. So I don't know how you would unintentionally sin. Tripped and fell into the poom poom. So what happens if you don't do it? Nothing. If God is the same today and tomorrow, then why has punishment stopped? Why has it all stopped? Exactly, because it's a contradiction, because it doesn't fit into the culture. If you did this stuff today, you would go to jail for animal cruelty, and we're going to see some murder in just a minute. Where I just like was out of money. But if anyone who sins defiantly, whether native born or foreigner, blasphemes the Lord and must be cut off from the people of Israel, because they have despised the Lord's word and broken his commands, they must surely be cut off. Their guilt remains in them. So if you sin unintentionally, here's a sacrifice, right? But if you sin intentionally, then that person is to be cut off. That's the rule. It's in 30 and 31 where they cut you off, right? That's what it say. But we can't even go a verse or two beyond that. And they completely ignore what they just wrote. Like, that's like if you writing a book and you just, you ever read a book that seems disjointed? Because the above chapter don't make sense with the second. This above verse is not going to make sense with what's about to happen. So let me refresh your mind with 30 again, 30 and 31. But anyone who sins defiantly, whether native born or foreigner, blasphemes the Lord and must be cut off from the people of Israel, because they have despised the Lord's word and broken his commands. They must surely be cut off. Their guilt remains in them. So if you sin against this God, Grand Rising Nicole, if you sin against this God, you are to be cut off. 32. While the Israelites were in the wilderness, a man was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly. They kept him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. It was very clear what should be done to him. Even in previous ones, when he talked about if you don't keep the Sabbath holy, you are to be cut off from the tribe. You're supposed to be excommunicated, right? That's what it says. So them saying it was not clear what should be done to him, they just told you. Then the Lord said to Moses, the man must die. The whole community must stone him outside the camp. So the assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Grand Rising, Mayat. How you just like a few sentences ago say that if somebody no, cut off is not a mistranslation of killed. Cut off means to be excommunicated. This is where they get the idea of excommunication, is that when you commit a heresy, you commit these certain blasphemies, you are to be excommunicated from them. This is why the Catholics do it. This is why Jehovah's Witnesses would do it. Mormons would do it. The Mennonites and all them Amish, they will all do that. They will cut you off from the family. They will turn their backs on you. Right? Meaning you're cut off. To be cut off has never meant kill the person. But a few sentences later, because they said they didn't know what to do with it, cut him off, excommunicate. And then, but God came in, kill that mug, kill his ass. MDK, murder, death, kill. That's what we got to have. Experience shows me that a lot ain't believable without an element of truth. I believe that there are universal laws should keep things in balance. This made me begin to question everything deeper than I had before. And you're right. There are some truth in all of this, but you covered up with a whole bunch of lies. Oh, this guy is very controlling, like a controlling mate. You were right about that one. And think about it. You could have put this man's head on a chopping block, had a good, sharp blade, and one time dead. But stoning somebody, that's like in the whole assembly. That's mean they picking up little rocks, they picking up decent size. It got to be rocks big enough for you to throw. So you're not picking up a boulder. You're not picking up, big rock. You throwing smaller rocks that you can throw. Think about a rock that you can throw with enough force to injure somebody. How many times is this man going to be pelted by stones before he actually succumbs to death? First, he's going to get brutalized, and then he's going to probably pass out from the pain. And then at some point, he dies. And you got children watching this, growing them up in this mentality where this is normal. Just like they used to hang folks and bring the children. We're watching the series Bass Reeves, the real Lone Ranger, and when there's a hanging, it's a public hanging, and people bring their kids to the public hanging. The judge that's in this story, in this show, they were saying like his first day on the job, he hung 12 people. So it's the same. You got children out there, you're hanging people, which is less gruesome as stoning, but stoning is like one of the absolute worst ways that you could kill somebody. Now, it might make I will probably be the most law-abiding joker in the world if we were still stoning people, because I'm not going to that. He said that's the point, but it didn't work because these jokers gonna still people still gonna people. I understand what you're saying, Paul, and you're right, and I agree with you. But people still gonna people. They still gonna do things that they want to do. Yeah, and one of the reasons why this book is written and has so many problems is because it's not one author. It's not even one group of authors. It's that's doing it at the same time. You got people writing these stories over decades and over 100 years, hundreds of years of time frames, adding, taking away, editing, changing. So you're going to, that's why you got so many contradictions in this book. Oh, Grand Rising, by the way, Paul. Grand Rising, Brian W. I was talking to my son yesterday. He was telling me it's pretty damn cold up there in Washington. Pretty damn cold. So making photo ops out of it. Yep. Yeah. So interesting little fact there before we finish the last part. Coach Brian said in Mecca, the Muslims throw stones at an ancient pillar on Hajj, but they had to change it to a wall because people were throwing stones at each other. So I did the Hajj to Mecca, and yeah, you got to walk around 7 times, and each time you get a little closer and a little closer. You're not supposed to throw stones until you get to like a certain part. That way you don't hit other people, you know. But yeah, you get there, and once you get close enough, you throwing stones at this big ass block, and there's like a meteorite that's inside there that you're throwing stones at this block while you yelling out Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. And yeah, so I did that one, and it was, you know, I was like, even though I was doing it, I was like, this is some crazy shit. Like, what the fuck does this mean? But of course, I was gonna do it because I got that close. Really, I just wanted to get close. But you know, you got to play the role because you're like, hey, it's about 2,000-3,000 people around here. And I was studying Islam at the time because I was investigating a religion. But yeah, I guess they I didn't know they stopped because people was hitting each other with rocks. But you're not supposed to throw rocks until you get close. Well, close to the fence line. Grand Rising Marcellus. Yeah, it is very cruel. Right after he said, thou shalt not kill. But kill this dude. He's supposed to be sent away, but they're going to kill him. No, I don't remember being shaped like a woman's vulva. You're an atheist, but your mom is Jewish and your dad is Muslim. Man, that's hard. That's hard. In my opinion, I couldn't do that. 7 rings around the black cube, more Saturn symbolism. I will agree with you on that one, Boondocks, that it does seem very Saturn-like. It does symbolize Saturn. I've never even thought about that until you just said that. But yeah, that would be about right. Although we know now that Saturn has hundreds of rings, if not thousands of rings. So let's finish this chapter off. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, throughout the generations to come, you are to make tassels on the corners of your garments with a blue cord in each tassel, on each tassel. With a blue cord on each tassel. You will have these tassels to look at, and so you will remember all the commands of the Lord, that you may obey them and not prostitute yourselves by chasing after the lust of your own hearts and eyes. Then you will remember to obey my commands and will be consecrated to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. So no dead bodies. When you killing people, that ain't the way you want us to be obedient. We're doing all these animal sacrifices. That ain't gonna remind us to be obedient. You're not gonna you've been writing on stones, but that's not gonna remind us to be obedient. We're gonna wear some tassels on our clothes to remind us to be obedient. I mean, I get the symbolism that if you're constantly wearing something, because I do it, I constantly wear this to make sure that I don't give in to other. See, some people think that I wear this because I'm participating in Jainism. No, this is older than Jainism, but it reminds me to not allow other people's negative energy to come towards me or be for me to accept other people's negative energy. So it's a reminder. I don't need it. It doesn't do shit other than remind me. Same thing with my uncle. It just reminds me, to be balanced in my masculine, feminine energy, not to be overly masculine. I'll never be overly feminine, but not to be overly masculine. So, it's just a reminder. So I get the tassels as a reminder, but you got all these other things, to remind you. I'm going to wear some tassels. And why aren't they wearing tassels today? They should still be wearing tassels. The only time I see people wearing tassels are priests. I would have less Israel and joined up with the Greeks. These guys seem like he suffers from dementia or schizophrenia. I'd have left that joker too. I've heard a lot of people working with Saturn energy. It absorbs the negative energy. What's Jainism? Jainism is an offshoot of Hinduism. It's not quite Buddhism, but it's similar. It has similarities to Buddhism, but it came out of Hinduism. I could never be a Janus priest. They got to walk around. They cover their mouth. They got to watch where they step because they believe that killing anything is a sin, and even have other people cook for them because even killing plants to them is a sin. And they pray for repentance every time they eat because they know they're consuming something that did have life. Jainism is it can be very, for the most part, it's very peaceful, but it got some crazy shit too as well. You'll remember I take you out every time you see the fringe. You will take me out if I don't see what you said. I cut all of it off my clothes. I cut it off too. Achilles was told to go to war to be remembered. Yep. That's the only way he was going to be remembered. That's why he is remembered. Yeah, you set intentions on your trinkets and it works. Right. Yeah, you're right. They are separated into 7 main sections. But we know that there are hundreds and thousands of rings. But from their perspective back then, 7. Hell, we only knew that there was like so many, all the additional rings, and then they got categorized, like you're saying. I think with Voyager, it was the first time they realized that. So you're carnivorous. Yeah, they wear the mask because if an insect fly in their mouth and all that stuff. Yeah, my life is, people think, I've got one guy, he keep on telling me I'm living in such a, I'm so hunkered down with anguish and grief, and that's why I keep talking about this stuff. Like, no, I'm peaceful as hell. I'm very peaceful. I would have never even, I started doing this just in case I pass away early and my kids, so they'll have my knowledge. It wasn't even about other people at first. I think it's you and not the trinket. It's a reminder. Yeah. And that's the whole thing about objects like this. It's really just you. It's all just you, and then these are just reminders, No, not that I no longer believe this book. What does it mean? What does that make me other than free? Just spiritual. Yeah. And you can be spiritual and base it off a whole bunch of books. You can be spiritual and use the Tao as your base, or the Bhagavad Gita as your base, or the Upanishads, or the Kabbalah. You could be spiritual and use Aesop fables as your base. If you can read into the esotericism of anything, you can use that. No one even remembers Agamemnon most of the time, even though he wanted the entire world trade. Yeah, nobody knows. if it wasn't for the movie Troy, most people wouldn't even know that name. The only reason I knew that name because there was a time frame where I was studying Greek history like a champ. And there was a time frame I could have told you damn near every god and every story of every god, you know, of the Greek pantheon and all the demigods and all this stuff, because all I did was read the encyclopedias. Wise beyond those still controlled by his presence. Yeah. That's my guy. That's my goal. My goal is to continue to gain in wisdom. See, here's the thing about the word spiritual. Just like most of these things, to be spiritual was for people who had walked away from this book. Now, and those people back then, they still, I'm religious. Then religion started getting a bad name. So now all the religious people are claiming to be spiritual. You know, whatever you do, they start picking it up and they mess it up. You know, they weren't talking about energy in churches and frequencies and transmutation, 10, 15 years ago. But now you hear these pastors, they're starting to talk about, you know, transmutation of energy and frequency and all this sort of thing. So they start trying to take it over because they know that's the only way they're going to try to keep people involved. Because, I'm going to do a more in-depth video later, but more than half of this new generation, these 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, are walking away from this religion, are not claiming any church, any religion. They're walking away from it. So now they have to reach out and say, well, those kids are talking about energy. They're talking about spiritual. They're talking about frequency. So we got to incorporate that into our Bible and our teachings. So they're going to mess up whatever thing you start calling. Hell, they're messing up alchemy. The word alchemy and being an alchemist, they're messing that up. Even Carnival, they tell us, come to on our Carnival cruise and come to our alchemy bar. Like, what the fuck? You can't use alchemy and liquor. That don't work. How do you? What are you gonna? Well, how are you gonna take some bourbon that's Jim Beam and make that to Woodford, or take the Woodford and make that into one of the better bourbons? That's alchemy. Alchemy is not the fact that you mixing some damn drinks. So. No, they will destroy, they will try to take over whatever the new thing is to keep people in their religion. Appreciate you for being here, Sheila. Thank you for being here and for sharing the videos, because I know you share videos, so I thank you. No, they have no idea what alchemy means. I don't think it's sad that the church stopped being the church and it turned people away. Because when has the church been good? Sherry? Grand Rising to you. I think that might be your first comment. I'm not sure. But when has it been good? Our religious leaders are useless when it comes to taking pieces and not having war. Yeah, they are useless because they're more concerned with keeping the establishment of what they have and keeping their power. Well, alchemy is not creating something out of nothing. Alchemy is transmuting from a lower vibration to a higher vibration. Transmuting something from, like in metals, transmuting the lower metals to the higher metals. Which is an example of transmuting your lower vibrational thoughts to higher vibrational thoughts. You know, my lower vibrational thought says murder. My higher vibrational thought says let everybody be. A higher will be to protect people. You know, so it's the raising of your vibrations. That's what alchemy really is about. Yeah, they did demonize a lot of the spiritual practices in churches. But the church has never been good. Yeah. And the institution of churches disconnects people from nature more than anything else. When you find people who don't have the institution of churches, whether they were in the Americas, they were on the Greek Isles, they were in Africa, Asia, they were more connected to the earth and nature than anybody else. Once you create institutions of churches, you disconnect from nature, which is a disconnection of self. You isolate yourself from what you would call the God frequency or the God energy. Mm-hmm. And people do perform alchemy, whether they realize it or not. I do believe in Jesus and not the world, not the works. I do believe in Jesus and know the works or the world has never been a good place, and gas always been filled with and has always been filled with hypocrites. Finding the truth in the church is harder now than it has ever been. Yes, first time listening to learn. I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think that people can find the truth more so now than they could back in the day. Whatever the truth was back in the day, it was taught through ignorance, and it was also taught through control. Let me give you an example. Prior to the 1980s, archaeologists used to go to the Levant with the term is with a spade in one hand and the Bible in the other hand, meaning that even when they found things, they try to force it to fit the Bible instead of letting the information be just the truth of what it is. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in a later video when I talk about the Tel Dan Stele. But the truth is more available now than it has ever been of what's going on in this Bible with the time frame of the people, who was writing and what they was meaning. It has always been controlled. You took iron and fire and something dead to make steel. I don't know how to make steel, but yes, I do know it's a process of changing the elements and by using fire, which increases the vibration of the iron and other materials in order to make steel. But I don't know how to make steel. I don't know the process. And religion does remove personal responsibility. You either blame actions on the devil or you blame actions on God. If you think about it, Boondock, you're blaming God or the devil for almost everything that happens in your life, good and bad. I mean, as like, how many preachers used to teach that a rich man goes to hell because of it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of needle for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven? How many used to preach that? And they are completely wrong in that teaching. How many teach that you're supposed to remain? How many would teach that rich people are less connected to God, when in the actual teachings of those books, that being rich was a status symbol that meant that God favored you? But people didn't know that. People weren't taught those things. But we have that understanding now that that's what it was actually saying. Grand Rising Edward. Well, Edward, we read through Numbers 14 and 15. We just finished that one, so now we're just talking about whatever people post. I didn't know that Africa was one of the oldest producers of iron and steel. Interesting. If Jesus existed, he would have been a poor man. Actually, no. If the story of Jesus is correct, let's say this, let's just for shits and giggles, Grand Rising Renee, the story of Jesus is real. You accept the book. We've already established on multiple videos that Jesus was a stone mason. Stone masons were highly paid individuals who had the ability to go to any country because their type of work was definitely needed. Jesus came to Peter. Peter had a bunch of ships, a bunch of boats. He wasn't a poor fisherman. He had a bunch of boats. Matthew was a tax collector. Tax collectors were upper middle class and beyond. Right? Luke was a doctor. Those were not poor. When they got ready to feed a whole bunch of people, they said it would only take us in 30 days of work. It would take us 30 days of work to feed 6,000 men, not to mention all the other women and children. They weren't poor. Jesus was not poor. That's another teaching that they have said, because who likes to teach that? Poor people. Poor people want to be able to relate to Jesus more so than anybody else. Just because he went and talked to poor people and dealt with poor people and dealt with people that the Pharisees and Sadducees thought was beneath them, because they saw poverty as not being in right relationship with Yahweh El. So when Jesus would talk to those people, they was like, oh, what are you talking to those? That's the wretched people. We don't deal with them because God is further away from them than he is to the people who got money. And remember, the disciples got all pissed when they was like, what, if a rich man can't get into heaven, then how in the hell can we get in? You see? So no, but Jesus wasn't poor. Jesus wasn't poor. He was hanging out with Martha. Martha had a bunch of money. Yeah. Been middle to upper class range. Oh, you said he would not have been a poor man. My bad. You know I ain't got my glasses on, the reading glasses. So, my bad. If I misunderstood what you said, my apologies. Yeah, and the preacher pastor was always getting that stuff wrong about the eye of a needle. That's one of the things that made me start walking away from that. And then when I got to Israel and I saw eye of a needle, I was like, oh, hell no. Yeah. It said believing in Jesus is okay. Believing in an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving God is okay too. Yet that's not what happened. What's happening? What's happening is you've been taught and conditioned to be loyal to and obey to a God of that book, just that book, with zero regard for any other gods or may not have existed. That's like telling your kids they don't need to be concerned or considerate to other kids in class if they don't look or talk like them. Very much so. You're teaching your kids to be biased because that's what the religion does teach, just for you to be biased towards anybody else. Everybody else is wrong. And this is not a loving God at all. And then, as I've said before, this Jesus character lacks what we would call the Christ mind. So I couldn't even look at Jesus might have been wise and elevated for those people at that time. But in today's world, Jesus would not be considered having a Christ mind or Christ mentality. He would be considered a lower vibrational person. I'm not political, but I'm going to say it in this way. Jesus would be a right-wing conservative. He'd be a MAGA because that's the mentality. He wasn't for equal treatment. He wasn't against slavery. So the women were still a lower caste. No, Jesus doesn't have, we are more moral than Jesus was, if he existed. Yeah. But that's the thing, Edward. Most people don't research and add history and logic to their understanding of this book. They go by the doctrine that has been passed down from century to century. Did you say you've been to Jesus land? To Jerusalem? Yes, I've been to Jerusalem a couple times. Yeah. Say that will make you an atheist of some sort, ruling out everyone else's belief. I'm an atheist to the Hindu. The idea of, so first, second, and even third century, the majority of Christians didn't believe in a Trinity. The overwhelming majority didn't. It was only the Orthodox that later on, in and around the beginnings of the third century, that started believing in a Trinity. And then that was because the Orthodoxy was supported by the Roman government. That's why the Trinity became the thing. But there were differences. Like Marcions believed that Jesus was a created being that passed through Mary. The Gnostics believed that he was just a created being that was below, like it was the primary God. What is it called? I forgot what it's called, but there was the primary essence of God. Then there was the Sophia, then the Demiurge, and then Jesus. But Jesus came to fix what the Demiurge messed up. Oh, you talking about the Jesus theme park down in Florida? Hell no. No. I would not. I would never go to that thing in Florida. When and where will you be? Are you responding to when I said where about in North Carolina you are, Marvell? But this weekend I'll be in Wilmington. We're leaving tomorrow night. But fact of the matter is, Jesus, as far as the biblical version of Jesus, never existed. Historical dudes named Jesus or Yeshua, who were in and around that first century, part of the revolts against the Roman government, there were some of those dudes around. At least Josephus accounts for at least 4 of them, and they're all different. The Catholics believe he created. Well, if Jesus is God, then he did create Mary, and then had sex with Mary to produce himself. So Jesus is his. Jesus is the son and his daddy at the same time. Okay, I'm not sure where. I've been to Jerusalem in Israel. I've never been to the fake Jerusalem thing in Florida. Right? That's what I first thought, Illumi. Jesus is a motherfucker. Literally. All right, I need like 2 minutes. Y'all give me 2 minutes. All right, I need 2 minutes. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, where were we? Virgin in Greek meant unmarried woman. Mary wasn't sexually pure. No, here's the thing. When the Aramaic, when they convert, when they translated the Aramaic to the Greek, and this happened in Isaiah as well as in the New Testament. Well, it's based on Isaiah. In Isaiah, when it says that a young woman will be pregnant, and from her this Messiah and all this kind of stuff will happen, the Greek translated young woman to virgin. The Aramaic word for young woman just meant a young woman. Didn't mean that she was a virgin, that she ain't had sex, just a young woman. And then that was actually fulfilled in Isaiah. So when they converted it to virgin, they took on the meaning of a woman that hadn't had sex. So it is a mistranslation. So she probably got knocked up by somebody else. Some even think that she got knocked up by a Roman soldier. And then Joseph just was gonna, Joseph was pissed about that. Oh, look, you ain't got to have it 300 years, Brian. Look at Scientology. Look at Scientology. You can write a book and create a religion right now. Well, that did it for me. Sorry, I tried to listen. What did it for you? I'm just curious. But if you are going, I hope you. Why be mean? Mean about what? I don't understand what I can't think of what was mean. She was 14, so she either was a hot ass or untapped. Oh, probably saying mean because he called him an MF. But literally, that's what it would be. And that's the thing. That's a logical thought process. If Jesus is God, then he got his mother pregnant. I can understand how you may find that offensive if you believe in Jesus. I get it. But it makes it no less true of what it is. And that's what many of us went through. Like the feelings that you have right now, Sherry. But the feelings that you would have of that offense is what many of us went through when we were deconstructing from this book, because we had believed in it wholeheartedly. I was a deacon of it. I was preaching it when the pastor couldn't make it to church. I was one of the main people who would then get up and preach sermons, right? I was the minister over the teenagers. So when deconstructing, it's a lot of things that I found offensive, but then I had to just step away from my mindset that said that it has to be this landing point and just see it for what it just is. And it's hard. It was hard, just like when I found out that my grandfather was abusive to my grandmother in their marriage before I was born. Because by the time I met my grandfather, he was still mean, but he wasn't abusive. And when my aunts and my mom would tell me about those stories of how he was beforehand, I was mad at them. Not mad at him. I was mad at them. But it took me time just to accept that, okay, that was his personality and he changed. So I had to accept this book. It is what it is. The deity that is spoken of in this book is cruel. He changes. He's vindictive. As we read in these chapters, he was vindictive. If somebody blatantly sins, cast him out. Oh, that dude sinned? Kill his ass. So it is a hard thing to truly accept the truth of this book when you've been in it for a long time. I can't imagine how painful it is for a person who is like, actually, some of the most painful people that I've seen go through deconstruction were older than me. My pappy, who was my father-in-law at the time, he's always going to be my pappy though. He was just clicking 70 years old. He was like 70, 73 years old when he came to live with me. And I tried not to deconstruct him, but he kept wanting to talk. I found out that there was a point where he wanted to move out of the house. He did not want to live with me because he was mad about what I was telling him and teaching him in our discussions. But then after a little bit of time, and the fact that he probably didn't have many other places he could go, but he went through a lot to deconstruct some of those things that he had been taught, especially the eye through the needle thing, because he had an opportunity to invest in things that would have made him a very wealthy man. And he was one of those men who believed in taking care of your family. That's your man's job. And to know he missed out on opportunities because of his belief in this book, that hurt him to his core. So it's hard. I get it. You know, but you got to understand, when people have deconstructed, we're going to make jokes about some of the things that are so crazy. You know, because some of the things about this deity that you was taught, he's a good God. He's a good God. And then you start reading. That's why when we started this series, we see how much murder this guy commits. You know, these children of Israel going through this time frame. If we've been, how hard is it today for Black people to walk away from this religion when our ancestors have been through, 200 plus years of slavery, 100 plus years of Jim Crow, and even the bullshit that we have still going on today, but are still trying to hold on to this book. These so-called children of Israel. So you would think that God would say, I understand there's a lot I got to unravel out of y'all. And so I'm going to be patient and keep working with you. But we just read a part where this guy admits he understands. Y'all were in Egypt. Y'all were enslaved. Y'all went through all this hardship for generations, for 260 some years that they were, if you calculate when you calculated that they were actually enslaved, according to this book. But yet he has zero patience, very little. I mean, I say zero. He has very little patience for these people who are in this wilderness, and flip-flops like a person who's bipolar on, just, sacrifice some animals, all this kind of thing, and I'm still good with y'all. But in other times, what? Y'all bought a golden calf, 3,000 people gotta die. Oh, y'all listen to, got fearful because somebody said that they gave a report there were giants in the land and all that is fortified. Oh, all of y'all gotta die before you can go into the promised land. Not a good guy at all. So it's hard. I get it. I understand. This book was a book we took. This book was a book we took. What we took. We will follow or left it. A lecture can't answer it. You find out for yourself. You don't go through life being told what to do or how to live your life. It's balancing. I'm not exactly sure what you mean on it. I kind of think I know, but I'm not sure. So I like to know what I'm talking about. Only mean thing is when you call when you call me a chicken tender, not a big deal, honest, but why come at me like that? Did somebody call you a chicken tender? I know I saw a comment that said something about chicken tender. But now, one thing we don't do, I don't like, and I won't abide by, is people using personal attacks. We can all have agreement or different. We can all have agreements and disagreements, but we don't attack people individually. Yeah, it does show that this God is not all powerful, all knowing. So you shouldn't be following it. You say you didn't call her a chicken tender? Oh, okay. Goo goo gaga. Grand Rising. More like, what's wrong with you? You don't have any peace. You're paranoid and you don't have no goddamn answers to your own problems. You get sleep paralysis and you're trying to find peace half dead. I have no idea what you're talking about, who you're talking to about that one. But welcome. He's the way. Oh, okay. So now I kind of understand. Now I just expressed Google Gaga that we don't throw personal insults. So if you can't speak to the audience without some name calling, you can easily get kicked off this thing and banned because we don't have time for that. We will practice alchemy on this podcast and have higher vibrational thoughts of respect for one another, whether we agree or disagree. The most dumbfounding thing to me is that Christians refuse to acknowledge that God did not write the Bible. Man did, and men have the capacity to lie, especially if it means they can control others. If the Bible was true and God is perfect, then there wouldn't be any contradictions and historical inaccuracies. It doesn't make any sense. You're absolutely right. And one of the reason why people believe that God inspired this book is because in the second or third century, Origen of Alexandria, he is the one that convinced people in a doctrine that it was all inspired by God. That's what you believe. I ain't gonna call your whole name Google Gaga. That's just ridiculous. But so I'm gonna call you G. Actually, I practice Stoicism, and I found a lot of peace and was able to lead my life tremendously through the Stoic mentality. Yeah, people, this religion, no matter where we're looking at it, Africa or any other place, we should absolve ourselves from these Abrahamic religions, because how in the hell in the world that people are indoctrinated to this and they have Stockholm syndromes over it. I don't understand how a person can look at their history and know that whether through slavery or colonization, but through some type of force, you believe in the religion that you believe, and it was just passed down, knowing that your ancestors never believed in this and were forced to believe in it. So why would you still believe in it? That fear of hell and wanting to belong to the larger groups is insanely powerful. Yeah. And now, one thing about being overly stoic, and I've had people tell me that I don't feel enough, because stoicism does have a sense of, and excuse the way I'm gonna say it, fuck your feelings. You can pray them. You can pray your hunger pains away all you want to. That ain't gonna work. You gotta go eat. We're not part of the Abrahamic unless we live in that area, though, right? No, if you believe in the religion, religion, the culture of the religion, and all that, then you're part of the Abrahamic religions. The fact that they all stem from Abraham, whether through Isaac or through Ishmael, that makes it part of the Abrahamic religions. It's just like this, probably starting the whole argument, but a person who is Jewish is not necessarily a bloodline or a race. It is people who follow the Jewish religion, culture, all that bullshit. That makes so you can be anywhere and be Jewish. You can be anywhere and be Christian. You can be anywhere and be Muslim or anything. It's about following the tenets of that culture and religion. Grand Rising Martez. Once I researched the true history of the world and not just the Bible, it became undeniable that it's completely untrue. I turned to Hyperianism a couple of years ago, and it has been the most freeing thing. I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's been proven that religious people and low IQ is directly correlated. So I believe that most people will remain religious if they already are, probably because they don't have the mental ability to understand anything outside of itself. I can understand that. I do like Morgu. Morgu, is that who you follow? Morgu, when he talks about Hyperianism? But when you study the world history and archaeology and all that, unless you do it, as I said earlier, with a spade in one hand and the Bible in the other hand, there's no way you still stay with this religion. But that was their land, right? That was whose land? The Jewish people land? No. That land has changed hands so many times. I mean, if I was a Canaanite, I could claim that's my land. If I was Sumerian, I could claim that's my land. Arcadian, that was my land. Babylonian, that was my land. Different people have control. We don't know who were the first inhabitants of that land. We don't know where it came from. Most likely, somewhere out of Africa. Just like this land. Georgia wasn't always Georgia. It was something else before. And before that, it was probably something else. I've always been accused of being apathetic, and that's not who I am. I have empathy and compassion. Sympathy is what they are looking for, and I refuse to give it. Yeah, I did this thing called What's Your Strength? I had to do that for one job. And I didn't even get any points for sympathy. I can have empathy for people, but I do not have sympathy. I'm lacking it. I've been working on it. But I'm actually a very emotional person, right? I'm actually very emotional. I had to admit to Angelina, when we watch movies, I be holding back the tears. And it could be something like the movie Elemental. We could be watching the movie Elemental, and there are certain parts of the movie I'm holding back the tears. Right? I could. So it's not that I'm lacking emotions. I just use my logic and my gut more than I use my emotions. Because when I used to use my emotions, I made so many goddamn mistakes. As far as we know, the Nefertarians were the first inhabitants of the area they migrated out of Africa. And I've seen information about that, about them being the first one to migrate into that area. But these new findings that Göbekli Tepe, man, is saying that there were people there before the Nefertarians, but they don't know who those people out of Göbekli Tepe, who they were. They're still working on that, and they're realizing that complex is a hell of a lot bigger than they thought. It's the shrooms. I'll be talking about my shrooms now. because we will be taking another shroom journey here real soon. But I'm gonna put Angelina to work. We're gonna grind them up and put them in capsules because eating those things is like fucking. It's a process you got to go through. There's another older than Göbekli Tepe. Which one? What's the name of it? So I can research that. There's some that believe it doesn't have nothing to do with us because we don't live there. I have to say no to that. I think that anytime, if you have what did my man say? What did the slave owning dude say? Something like tyranny reigns when good men stand by and do nothing. I forgot who said it, but I know it was one of those slave owning founding fathers. Said something about tyranny reigns when good men stand by and do nothing. Well, Karahan Tepe is part of the whole Göbekli Tepe complex. You know, that's why I'm saying it's bigger than what they thought, because and they're finding Karahan Tepe. You know, they were saying 10,000 BCE, but then Karahan Tepe is showing that it might be 12,000 BCE. But it's still part of the same complex. But no, we have, if you have a moral compass and you see people suffering, you should do something about it. Now, you can't do something about everybody, but you should do something. When you have the opportunity to do something, you should do something. But you still got to be smart about what you do and how you do something. Like, I won't give money to a homeless person on the street, but I'll give money to an organization that helps homeless people. After I've researched that organization, though, I got to know what the hell they're doing and how they do it and why they do it. You know, I don't just give money out freely. So I do believe that. So like some of the ideas of the Bible that says you be a good steward over your money, that's how I take being a good steward. You know, not that, oh, I'm just going to give it to the church and whatever they do, it doesn't matter because I gave mine from my heart. No, fuck that. I need to know what they're doing and who the persons are and how it's functioning. Otherwise, they ain't giving you jack. You know, like, don't get mad at me, but I would never give money to the Susan B. Anthony organization because they ain't doing shit. For all the money they've raised, they have made zero advancements. So Cortec Tepe, okay. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Notice these Jews claim themselves to be Israelites, yet the brothers out here in the Power Ranger suit outfits claim to be true Israelites, while the Israelis and the Palestinians are trying to tell them that they are crazy, and all in the name of the same damn deity. When will they all wake up and realize that the land is dead, just like the desert, just dead and void of life because they choose to continue to be foolish? You know, one of me and Angelina's, one of my favorite things that Angelina, I'm conning her, conditioning her to make it one of her favorite things, is driving through in and around, just taking a drive, driving through downtown area, smoking a cigar, and just people watching. She does love people watching. And we passed by some of them. They was on the street preaching, but they ain't had a Power Ranger suit on. They had the Power Ranger suit on. I would whip the camera out and be like, look at the Power Rangers. But yeah, they're all claiming to be these children of Israelites, reading the same books. Two of them can read the same text and have a wholly different idea of that text. And then most of the time it's based on race or culture instead of, you know, being based on whatever it actually is. It suggested that Prophet Ezra used a potent mix of narcotics like cannabis. What I've realized thinking about it, hashish is a traditional cocktail as well as poppy in the Middle East. Connecting the dots, are you pondering what I'm pondering? These dudes were high as a kite doing their rituals, and we just sheep in the herd feeling the BS. Oh hell yeah, Grand Rising Yoshi. Hell yes. When you look at almost every culture, religious culture, the shaman or priest or whomever back in the ancient days, and still true today, use some type of hallucinogen or what we would call a drug to connect them to spirit, right? Uh, I always, okay, so even in the Bible, in the Bible, one of those stories that's just, people want to deny it, but when, what's that chick name? What's the one night with the king woman? Um, I forgot. Esther. Before Esther started her whole process with one night of the king, the first thing she had to do was fumigate her face over the fire. So now we know if I'm just burning some wood and you ain't gonna go over there and put your face over some smoke and it's just wood smoke. No, it's just like in the Greeks when they would burn different things in order to cause them to have hallucinogens or to get them in the right mindset or connect the spirit. Fumigating the face, that's what fumigating your face was, is breathing that in. Or how in the Americas they would sit in the wigwams and they would burn the peyote. Either you smoked it directly or they burned it in a big pile and they filled the tent with the smoke and you fumigated yourself with that smoke so you can go on a spiritual journey, drink the ayahuasca, whatever it is. But they all did. That's how they connected. Then it became something about money, and so can't make money off of it. Can't have all a spiritual connection. Yep, they had the opium tents and parlors, especially in the Asian communities in the 1800s, in around them, especially in them 1800s in America. You got them opium parlors connecting people. Remember in Tombstone when Wild Bill came out from the opium tent, and he was like, "Oh, stop everything!" So, and he killed the sheriff. I don't think the Israelites believe themselves. If they are so sure of what they believe, then why don't they all jump into why do they all jump to insulting as soon as you disagree with their beliefs? It's screaming fragility to me. I agree wholeheartedly. I actually brought that up in a debate against a bunch of them on the streets in New Orleans. Plus, they dress weird as hell. Most of them are bums with no jobs, and they use women. And don't get me started about the names they give themselves. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. They are a lot of the people that are recruited to be in the Hebrew Israelite community are Black men and women who society has been kicking their ass, right? They haven't been able to get out of their situation. So this is a scapegoat type method for them to be able to blame, even more so blame slavery, and then put God on top of that slavery so that they can justify why they're in their current condition, and then have a hope of some promise that they're supposed to get this land over there. If they're 400, according to them, the 400 years is over. So why aren't they the ones over in the Levant taking it over? But they know they can't. So not all of them, but some of the sects of them will say that, oh, America is actually, Egypt and Israel. And so that's why we're going to take America, because they're here in America. Now take your ass over there and do something. Go over there. That's where the Nile is. That's where the Euphrates is. It ain't the Mississippi. Take your ass over there. They do that. I'd give them more credit if they was doing that. I'd give them more credit to their belief if they was actually going over there and doing it. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Yoshi. You're exactly right. That oracle temples were built over natural gas deposit, causing the oracles to hallucinate. And they take the little young virgin girl up there and they let her get all high, and then she's supposed to be speaking to the gods. Yep. Same thing with Black people becoming Muslim. The NOI grew strong because of people in a negative situation. Most cults grow into religions because they first start by getting people who are in the most desperate situation, giving them some connection, some unity, some hope, and then a larger community starts becoming a part of it when they see it's prosperous. And they're just tricking these people. The easiest way to start a religion is to go to the most downtrodden persons, and you can start your religion. Yep. It's the same bullshit between the nation and the Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, and Yoshi is right about that. Everybody wants to be the chosen one of God, want to be special. My specific little group is the special group. You know, why everybody ain't special? You know who had it right? Syndrome. Syndrome had it right. If everybody is super, then no one is super. Syndrome had it right. That's one of those movies where the villain is actually correct in their thought process. If you don't know who Syndrome is, that's from The Incredibles. The first Incredibles. Is he in the first Incredibles? Yeah, that's the first Incredibles. I'll tell you, these movies be showing y'all some stuff. But Syndrome was right. If you take away, how much better would this Bible, like if you was writing this Bible today, you wouldn't write it about Israel. They being the children of Israel and they're going to genocide all these other people because they're God's chosen one. And this God is saying that I'm going to be your God. You know, in that whole Old Testament, I can't think of any situation where this guy was saying, I'm going to be your God and use you as an example so that everyone will know that I am the God of everybody. Incredibles. The cartoon movie, Incredibles, the animated movie. Yep. It's religious superiority is what I call it. Yeah, the problem with NOI is the unwavering loyalty to Elijah Muhammad and the naive nature of the mostly uneducated population in which they are seeking to engage. Yeah, and when you do become educated in it, they then make you into the leadership, and they give you prestige, power, and money, and that keeps you happy. And you keep teaching it because you ain't giving up that prestige and that money. Mm-hmm. Why say God bless America? How about God bless the world? God bless everyone. One of my favorite movies, Scrooged. And the little black boy said, and God blesses everyone. How about everybody? Stupid movie list is getting longer. The movie list does get longer and longer. I think the Christian name Taquan Lee you had on the live like a month ago for a couple of hours did a response video to y'all's conversation. Reaction video to the conversation with a 32nd Degree Mason. I think his channel is called. You know, and it's funny you said that because I was just talking to somebody else about not giving in to going back and forth with people who are using your information or trying to build their audience based on harming you or going at you. I will probably never see that video because it's not worth my time. I mean, the man sat up there and admitted that he would make his daughter marry her rapist. I had that not him as a person, but that vibrational mentality is beneath me to engage in it. If God is all knowing, then he knew that Eve would have picked the fruit. He knows what choices everyone will make. Yet we have choice. Grand Rising Vera, which then gets rid of the whole idea of free will, because then we would have no free will if everything is already predetermined. Like, that's the Calvinist mentality. So the Calvinists have that part locked down. They're saying that, hey, there is no free will. Everything is predestined, preordained. So you don't have any. And if you are supposed to be this perfect, loving God, why would you create when you know the creation is going to cause you to have to punish it in the ways that you've punished? Then what would that make you as the creator? So either you're not all knowing or you're sadistic. You got McDonald's and Taco Bell. They say God bless America because Christian is like a shelter blanket for white nationalism and imperialism. It certainly has been. And if we're not, and here's the thing about religion, though, religion has always been used by whomever is conquering. Whomever is conquering is going to use the religion to their benefit. Yeah. And I wouldn't put my trust in any of these deities, because all these deities are supremely flawed. And you cannot be some deity I'm supposed to give worship to if you're flawed. Yeah, I say all them books are not an ounce of real knowledge. Just because you read a book doesn't mean you understand the book. And just because you read a whole bunch of books or you have information doesn't mean that you have wisdom and understanding of that information. Right. Just started watching Black Adam, and they're throwing up Illuminati pyramid sign. Oh yeah, that's unity, man. That's the unity. What are you talking about? That's the unity. We all come together in unity. But no, that's why, like, one of the first things I wanted to teach my children was critical thinking. Ain't no wanted to teach. One of the first things I taught my children was critical thinking. You can get all the facts, but if you can't get an understanding of those facts, then you have nothing. Now, even when you think you have an understanding of those facts, the test of those facts will be how you apply them. Once they've applied, you then see what the results are. If you're not getting a good, higher, pure, conscious results out of it, go back to your facts. See if there's some facts you've been missing, or reevaluate your understanding of it, and then put it into practice again. And let's see what happens. That's one of the things I did with this Bible. I took it for what they taught me when I was a kid, and as a young adult, I put it into practice. The results were not what it claimed. I reevaluated the hell out of it, went and got some more facts, and realized that it's not providing me. That as a whole, it got a minor, like somebody said earlier, a little truth here, a little truth there, but it's covered by so much poison. It became a throwaway. It became a throwaway, and so I threw it away and walked away from it. You know, I get more. Actually, that's when I threw that away. Researched Islam for about a year, threw that away. Hinduism for about 6-8 months, threw that away. Buddhism, then threw that away. Then the Tao, still keep the Tao. And then Hermeticism, and I keep that one. And those are philosophies. And I threw, it was in like 2000 that I started studying Stoicism. That's when I read, my first introduction to Stoicism was The Emperor's Handbook, and that's Marcus Aurelius's writings. And not that I agree with everything any one of those things talk about, because I don't agree with any 1% of anything. But if it can be tested, you test it, see what you get out of it. If it works, it works. But also in that testing, you got to make sure that your environment of the testing is actually the correct environment. Like, think about so many Christians who have been and this could be any religion actually, but since we're really the primary thing we denounce here is Christianity. How many poor Christians, just use, because money is easy to count, it's easy to measure, it's easy to tell if you're getting what you want. How many poor Christians pray, give their money, are promised that that money will be shaken up and pouring over and it'll double, triple, quadruple, and yet it's 10 years later and they're still poor. It's 20 years later and they're still poor. Obviously, something ain't right about your testing, or something ain't right about this understanding that you have about it. So you need to change it. You know, maybe now, and here's the kicker. The damn book tell you try many businesses because you don't know which one will succeed. You know, it tells you to make yourself, well, it tells you to use your talents to invest your money to make more money, but they don't do it. So even in their testing, they're not even testing it in the way that they should test it. It tells them that faith without works is dead, but yet they don't do anything to increase their marketability to their value to the market. So even when they test it, their method of testing is flawed. The reason why you see some people who are Christian and they are wealthy is because they are actually applying some of the other things that it talks about. Which is one of the reasons why they say that if you're rich, if you have money, then God is blessing you because you're actually putting those things into practice. Under this sign you shall conquer well. Imagine the possibilities. Constantine had a very smart advisor in battle. The Machiavellians before his time, and yet at the time, the art of war had been written and surely known amongst the Eastern Roman Empire hierarchy. They were. And you know that story about in this sign you will conquer, it was a made up story. He didn't, when he first recorded that battle, when that battle was first recorded, there was nothing about that. Eusebius of Caesarea, first recordings of that battle, it said nothing about seeing a sign. It wasn't until after the Edict of Milan that he re-recorded it and said that they saw the sign and Jesus visited him in his tent. But actually he said Sol Invictus and visited him in his tent. Later Catholic writers changed Eusebius' writing from Sol Invictus to Jesus, because Constantine did say that your Sol Invictus, your Jesus is like my Sol Invictus. But yes, they still knew about the art of war, Sun Tzu's writing. Yeah, that's federally is still a narcotic. Some states have decriminalized it, but it's still federally a narcotic. Shouldn't be, even though I don't smoke it, but it shouldn't be. They still run the same thing as for hungry kids in Ethiopia. The same ones from 20 years ago begging for donation. Which is so horrible because I ain't gonna lie, the first time I went to Ethiopia, my expectation, and that was in 94, was my first time I went to Ethiopia. My expectations was it was gonna be poverty written all over the place. Man, I showed up in Addis Ababa and I was like, this shit's nice. This is real nice. Nice. People, corporations, and people with jobs and making money. And then even when I went out into the countryside, you know, people still living like more ancient ways. I was like, where are all the starving children? Well, man, they set that stuff up. They set that stuff up. They'll find a child who is sick and they'll use that child and that mother. They'll go and find an impoverished area, and that's what they do. They film it. You could do that in America. And as a matter of fact, there are commercials about starving children in America. So there are starving children everywhere. There are starving people everywhere. But that doesn't make the whole country. It doesn't even make the majority of the country. But it's a good scam. It's a good scam. I like how South Park did those videos, they showed the lady eating up all the stuff. The lady from the Archer Bunker show, she eating all the food, which I always thought was crazy. I did think that was crazy. Why y'all sending this fat white woman over there? Right? Nothing against people of size, nothing against that. But if I'm doing a commercial and it's about starving children, I'm not sending a plump person to do the commercial. No, I don't care if that person is, feeling philanthropic about the whole situation. That's just not the right image. Yeah, Sally Struthers, that's her name. I'm sending somebody who's in, they thin. I'm sending a thin person. I'm not going to send a plump person. Whoever thought of that, that's bad marketing. If you don't have a traditional white dwelling or a box macaroni, you must be poor. Pretty much. And people, because what did we know about Africa in the, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 80s? I don't know how old you guys are, but 70s, 80s, even early 90s, well, all the way through most of the 90s. People didn't know much about Africa at all, especially Black folk. We thought that everybody in Africa was still living in huts and zebras and shit running around and lions attacking you, and everybody was poor and all these sorts of things. So when I first pulled up that sub-Saharan Africa, so when I got to North Africa, I was like, okay, they never showed North Africa. So, Casablanca, Tripoli, all right, Cairo, nice big cities, people modern, good to go. Southern Africa, I thought, well, I don't want to go to Southern Africa. So the first time I had to go to Southern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, I was like, God damn. I was getting my emotions ready for it. Man, please. I was like, shit, I can live here. This is nice. First time, because the first place I went was Accra, Ghana, the capital of Ghana. And I was like, this is nice. Then I went to Ivory Coast. This is nice. I had to correct the dude about a year ago. He still thinks that Rwanda is still fighting the war, the genocidal war of the Hutus and the Tutsis. I was like, dude, that was more than 20 years ago. Well, that was 20 years ago. They're not doing that. It's nice in Rwanda right now. Man, half the commercials to get you to donate money to some cause is a damn scam. And I'm being generous by only saying half. I'm sure it's more than half. What are your thoughts on the Napoleon film, coming out this year? Is it true or false that Napoleon Bonaparte had something to do with the missing nose on the Sphinx in ancient Egypt? From my understanding, Napoleon didn't have shit to do with the nose missing on the Sphinx. That was already had already fallen off before he got there. Am I going to go watch that film as a history buff? Yes. As a military person, yes, because we studied the shit out of Napoleon as far as military training, military engagement training, military leadership training. Sorry. And then it got Joaquin Phoenix in it, and he is such a good method actor. Like, he gets all up into his roles. So yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the hell out of it. And I wonder if they're gonna show how. Shit, I'm forgetting the name. He was, because I've used Napoleon when I talk to people about relationships. It's an interesting fact, and it's a fact, that when Napoleon was whooping ass, he had his wife. I'm forgetting Napoleon's wife, the two wives he had. But the first wife he had, they had a great relationship, and he was whooping ass. Then he got rid of her and got this other chick, and everything went to hell in a handbasket. You know, because I used to teach when I would do life coaching with some people. I was like, if you don't have a good spouse, no matter how great you are, it's gonna fall apart. And if you have a great spouse with you and you reach these heights, but then you want to switch gears, you probably gonna mess up. You probably about to screw everything over. Yeah, he did very good in the movie The Joker. That's two different movies, Trauma, that the Queen is talking about. The movie The Joker, that's what like a thing of just the Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker was in one of the Batman movies, but Heath Ledger was an amazing Joker as well. Okay, hear you out. Let's get our cell phone cameras and go through the homeless camps, recording the condition. Then go to a well, go to a park and film some kids who were just playing and having a good time. Chop the film up and make it look like these kids were from the camps. Send that to Bibi to Bibi in Israel and see if he will send us some money. Bet he won't. Oh hell no, he sure not. I certainly will not. Yes, Josephine. Thank you. And then it was Marie Louise. But when he had Josephine, see, I was thinking Josephine, but my brain was saying Josephine Baker, and I was like, no, it's not Josephine Baker, because that was a sister, and that was way after. But thank you. All mine. But yes, Josephine. When he had Josephine, he was kicking ass. He was rocking. And I can attest to that in my own life. I can look at my highs and lows correlate with whom was in my life. Whoever was in my life made a difference in my highs and lows. Now, at the end of the day, it's my fault. My lows are all my fault. Your last comment of the day, you lying. Netflix, The Fall of the House of Usher. This should be your next. I have to go and see what that is first. I was kind of mad. We went to see the Trolls Band Back Together movie. I was looking for a bunch of esoteric things in it, like I did for the movie when they did the one about the rock apocalypse, whatever. But War Tour. It wasn't very esoteric. It had a little hint in there, but not enough. And it wasn't as good as it was good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. And yes, me and Angelina were like surrounded by other people's kids watching a big old kids movie at the drive-in. So what? Who Heath Ledger? Well, when you haven't seen Jack, why am I saying his name wrong? Phoenix portrayed the Joker. Yeah, haven't. Do you know that would be a good? That would probably get people arguing left and right over that one, Queen, about who played the better Joker, Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger. They were both outstanding. That was a conversation you just had. What was the conversation? Wade. Jack Nicklaus got to drop down to he third. Sorry, Wade. He third. He was good, but he's third. Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger. I'll have it. But no, let me not get distracted in that one. How people around you affect your income, your outcome in life, and it's immediate, and what is immediately going on with you. Yeah, people do. That's why you got to be mindful as to who you let in your circle, and the person that you call your mate is the most important person that you got to be mindful of, because that person is either going to screw your shit up or they're going to make you greater than what you are. that's just that's just facts. We all like to think that we're so strong and so independent that nobody else can affect us, but the person that you put around you affect you tremendously. Right? A person is either going to allow you to be great or they're going to cause you to not be great. They're going to be a stumbling block and a roadblock. You know, if you're constantly, especially when I used to, a lot of my clients that I used to coach were women. And I used to tell them all the time, as a man, understand this. If a man is not getting peace and the amount and type of pum pum that he needs at home, he can't go out there in that world and be as effective as he should be, because while he's out there in that world, half his mind is on the turmoil that's going on at home or the lack of pum pum that's going on at home. Yeah, he's still gonna know this old fine ass chick who walked by, but how much time he spends thinking about that is greatly affected by what he's getting at home or not getting at home. If he's getting all that he can handle and getting it the way that he wanted, he'll notice her, and that's it. He back into his grind. Same thing with a woman. Same thing with a woman. If she's not getting, the respect, if she's not getting the care and the nurturing that she's looking for from her man, that's why she get that damn work husband. That's why she get that damn work husband. And next thing you know, you sitting up here, wondering why she irritated and angry and why she tired and why she frustrated and why she don't want to talk to you, won't want to deal with you, don't want to do shit for you. Because you ain't giving her what she needs. So when she go out and fight this world, or she's stay at home and she ain't doing the things that she want to take care of at home, it's because you ain't giving her what she needs to be great. It works hand in hand. And both of y'all, this is why I was 14 with my cousin, and although she was talking about sex, it works in every aspect of life. She told me that if you focus on pleasing her, then you should get pleased. But the bigger statement she made was, if you focus on pleasing her and she focus on pleasing you, then both of y'all are going to be pleased. But that works in every aspect of it. If you both focus on taking care of the other person and not being selfish towards yourself, not being so self-centered, then and everybody's needs are taken care of, then both of y'all can prosper. Do you do private consultation? I sure do. Just go to CoachRenz.com. Lies. He's trying to conjure all he can. Who's trying to conjure all they can? If she don't respect you, it's over. Pum pum is respect? No. I mean, yes and no, but no, for the most part. Because a woman can give you some pum pum and not respect you. And she can give you some half-ass pum pum and still not respect you. She can give you all the pum pum you can handle and still not respect you. Most people can't get past the id, nope, and into the ego or the superego. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but you can do it. Yeah, I know people who their wives she was very sexual, gave him all the pum pum he could handle, but still did. Oh, Angelina made me watch this damn movie. Oh, he's trying to conquer all he can. No. If a man is, okay. This movie first. Angie made me watch, and yes, it has some funny parts, but she made me watch Norbit. Rasputia gave him all the pum pum he can handle, but didn't respect him at all. So pum pum and respect don't necessarily go hand in hand. But if you're taking care, but there's more to it. That's why I said the pum pum and the respect. And well, I said it in peace. Part of peace is respect. Because no person has peace if they're not respected by their mate. But as far as conquer all he can, yes, there are some men out there who are just dogs, right? That is true. There are some who just, it don't matter what you give him, he gonna go out and seek more. That's a dude that I always say you need to be in a polygamous situation, or y'all need to be swingers, because if you can't, you need that. Now that's not the only reasons to do those things, but for a guy who is a dog, that's what he needs. Here, she gave him way more than she can handle. She's breaking beds. Yeah, and she was able to control him without the pum pum, because once she instilled that fear in him, he wasn't going nowhere. But this is why, if you gotta, I always say, rather, if a woman should explore her sexuality and know what her sexuality is, and a man should too. This goes for everybody. You should explore your sexuality and know what your limitations are and what your fulfillments are in your sexuality, because you then need to match up with somebody who can match that. And however, whatever it is that y'all like doing, y'all need to match up. If you can't match up, y'all shouldn't be together. Because if somebody is lacking, then my eyes gonna be going over there. And only after a while, they may not cheat on you, but they're gonna cheat on you in other ways, like not giving you the attention, being irritated all the time, and making a big deal out of everything, and things that normally wouldn't bother them, now that's bothering them. They're gonna destroy the relationship one way or another. Shit, I'm living proof of that. But one of the best examples I've ever seen of that was, I know this lady, she's passed on now, but she was one of those wives with her first husband where she wasn't doing all those things he wanted. She was much older than me. She was like 20 years older than me, 20, 30 years older than me. So she was like, I ain't going down on him. I ain't sucking his thing. And I ain't giving him none unless I want some, and all this kind of stuff. Had a horrible marriage. Somebody got a hold of her and counseled her into like, no, you got to take care of that man. So then she married this other guy. When she married him, he was coming out of a marriage, didn't have much going for himself, had dreams, but never really was putting any effort to it. She took care of the house. She took care of the boys. That man didn't leave the house in the morning without either getting, excuse the plainness that I'm going to say this, because this is how she would say it. He didn't leave the house with either getting sucked off or pum-pummed off. And when he came home, she would give him some more. I watched that man go from a guy that I had known for about 6-7 years prior, rise up in his company, then start his own construction company, made that company prosper. He did become a pastor, because this was when I was still a deacon. Became a pastor, built a church, and start buying properties and building homes and all this stuff. He had that right woman. She gave him the clarity and the support to go do all that. But you got to find the right one, though. It doesn't work with every man. It doesn't work with every woman. Yeah, because if you're very vanilla, and keep looking for cosmopolitan, you're going to have a problem. You will. Like, I remember I went on a date with this one girl, and we thought about dating. And no, we did date, actually, for about 2 weeks. And then her shit was so vanilla that she was like, oh, I'm not so used to holding hands while we in public. I was like, what? Holding hands? Like, what are you talking about? And then the pum pum was bored as hell. It lasted 2 weeks. Because I knew at that age, there was no way I would stay with that woman. Telling her to work before everything. I might have got lost in that one. That's how you do it. You probably talking about how she, I got one of those. I went from working electrical and cable to working for myself and caring about what's going on inside my house more than she makes sure I'm empty with a full stomach before she let me go into this world. You're hearing it from another man, not just me. Wade just expressed. Deadpool just told y'all. Wait a minute. Wade Wilson is Deadpool. If you got a good man, you drain his ass. Drain his ass. And I'm telling you, if he's a good man, he will give you whatever life you desire. Because he don't want to lose that. You drain him and you respect him, give him peace at home, he don't want to lose it. If you saying, well, I'm tired of working, going out working and then coming home taking care, drain that man, fulfill his sexual desires, and respect him and take care of him. If he's good, he'll get a plan together. Before you know it, it might take some time, but your ass is gonna be at home living the life that you want to live. Yeah, you ain't gonna jeopardize that. You just got to know what that man's levels are. And then have enough knowledge about yourself to know that I can do that or I can't do that. Just like a man has to, when you meet a woman, and if she tells you what type of lifestyle she want to have, you need to be able to say, I can do that or I can't do that, and walk away from it. Like I remember meeting this one woman and the lifestyle she wanted, I was like, nah, I can't do that. I can become a millionaire. I know that's within me. I could become a deca, maybe even a 100 millionaire. Billionaire, I can't do it. I can't do it because I'm not willing to put forth what it takes to do it. And so it's not that I can't, it's just I don't want to. So I was like, nah, that takes too much. You don't even get to enjoy life. Yes, Rasputia was terrible to Norbert. She was, and incredibly insecure. Yeah, that was one of the funny parts when she farted and said those are the twins. I didn't particularly care for the movie. I thought Army of Darkness was funnier, but hey, me and Angie are still debating over that one. She thinks Norbit is better than Army of Darkness. I think Army of Darkness is better than Norbit. House smells like pine salt, pine salt, and that's always food to eat. It brought out the man in me because I was raised by a single mom who didn't teach me how to be a man. Yeah. And those understanding a person's history and why they are who they are, and then if you can get the person to truly be able to express who they desire to be, you can then get on a roadmap to where y'all can get there. Yeah. But it takes self-evaluation to be able to know that and to do that. Like I used to be terrible with money, horrible with money. And so I had to realize, even though I can control the government's money down to the penny, and I can investigate and figure out where people are stealing money, I was horrible with taking care of my own money. So I knew I had to hand it over, like, here, this. And then I figured out a plan of how to make it work. And then I said, here's the plan. Here you go. Make it work. And I realized why I don't like that. I hate paying bills. I do not pay bills. And especially this is before the internet. So putting things on automatic wasn't an option. I couldn't stand paying bills. I feel like I should get it all for free. Like, why should I pay for these lights? Should be free. That's why I had solar panels on my house in Florida and a whale. Because I was like, nah, I ain't paying for water and I'm not paying for electricity. Exactly. I had to self-evaluate in order to understand how to make the best of a woman, make the best of a woman who wants to be a woman instead of a filtering life through my own feelings and experiences and thinking that's it's all about instant gratification. Yeah. Yeah, there's no the moment whether I'm talking about somebody with about business or health or money or anything, if they start talking about instant gratification, start talking about fast, getting things done fast, nah, I'm not gonna be a good coach for you. Everything is a journey. Everything is a journey. It's very rare to have something happen instantly. And if you can't sit back and be patient for something to happen, you ain't gonna win. You're never gonna win in whatever it is. Now there is a limit to the patience though. Now everybody, you the same way, Melissa. I don't know if Melissa married, but some of y'all might want. Y'all single dudes might want. Nah, I just playing. I just playing. Melissa did not say hit her up in her DMs. I was just joking. Recipe also said that the young skinny girl, Tondi Newton. Oh, that's her name. You ain't just dressing good for your husband. That fish already plucked. Where's your arrow? You trying to catch a new fish? Yeah, she was insecure and hating on that man, on that woman rather. The difference between preserving and being a fool is fine. Is fine and may only differ by minutes. True. I didn't get what you meant at first, but now I got what you're saying, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. There are lines that you cross, like with me. There are certain lines that you cross. I don't give a damn what you doing. I'm done. You act violently towards me, I'm done. I mistakenly forgave a person one time for being violent towards me. Never again. Pleasing us is simple. Trauma. Do you know how many times I've told a woman that she is overcomplicating her man? Overcomplicating it completely. It's kind of like, so most of y'all heard of that book, The 5 Love Languages, right? One of the biggest problems that people have if you use that as a basis is that people usually love somebody the way that they want to receive love, not looking at how that person received love and giving that to them. Like gifts is so low for me. Don't give me gifts. You know, I can appreciate them because I'm mature enough to look at the effort you put into it, but it doesn't have that much meaning to me. So don't think giving me gifts, but I recognize that if a person consistently and always gives me gifts, then that's actually how they receive love. But then it irritates the shit out of me when they don't realize that's not how I receive love. So stop doing it. Every now and then, fine. Special occasions, fine. But for the most part, no, not so much. You know, so men are so simple for the most part. Most of us are very simple. You know, it's either going to be words of affirmation, affection, you know, physical touch, and words of affirmation, physical touch, and it's in my head right now, and I can't think of it. Oh, acts of service, and quality, maybe quality time. But it's going to be those four are going to be, I mean, I know there's 5, but those 4, most men are in those 4. Those 1 or 2 of those are going to be his top 2. 2 of those are going to be a top 2. And if a woman just focused on those top two, she's gonna be good. Easy. And physical touch, 99% of the time, physical touch is gonna be one of the top two. No, I didn't think it was that funny. People just pick the love language that they want anyway instead of what they respond to positively. Yeah. You can't just read that and then be like, oh, okay, I think I want physical touch or I think I want gifts. You got to really look at who you are and and how things have affected you. Affirmations get into my soul. Yeah. See, for me, that quality time and physical touch and then quality time, it's my top two. Then acts of service. Then words of affirmation. And I don't even put gifts in there. Like we were talking about stoicism earlier. My emotions are almost dead to gifts. And like when me and Angie first started, well, even before we started dating, I remember telling her that I'm the type of person that if you gave me a gift for my birthday, unless it's something that I use consistently and I may even forget when I got it, I will forget what you gave me within a few weeks of that time frame. I'm not being mean about it. It's just I don't put a lot. Gifts don't affect me that way. They really don't. The one reason why I know I remember that Angie got me a hat and some cowboy boots for my birthday is because I wear them. And I remember that right now. A year from now, I may not remember when I got those. But I can remember a whole bunch of other stuff that fits into what if the gift is a book? Still don't matter. I'm pretty sure that some of the books I have were gifts. I can barely remember when I got them and how I got them. Do you think a person can gift their time to a person? That's called quality time. Ha 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 ha, Renee. Renee got jokes. Ain't got no old timers. I do math problems every day. Nah, like a book is. Like I'm looking at some of the books over there, and I don't know how I got some of those books or who gave me those books. If I bought them or somebody else bought them. I don't even remember when they were purchased, who purchased them. I just know they're there. Photo book don't be. Man, I got thousands of photos downstairs that I ain't looked at in decades. Mm-mm. Physical touch and quality time, man. Physical touch and quality time. That's it. That's it. You ain't even got to do, well, acts of service is kind of important too. Depends on what they are. But nah, physical touch and quality time. That's it. That is it right there. And see, like, let me tell y'all a secret. It's a secret. Don't tell Angelina. But just by watching her and seeing what she does, now I suck at gifts, so I'm working on getting better at it. But I do know gifts is in there. It's not a top three. I mean, it might be a top three, it might be a third. But words of affirmation. I know words of affirmation is one of her love languages. It's one of her top ones. Yep, we are simple and basic. Now, there are some gifts that I will remember for a long time, and that's the sentiment that's behind it. My current girlfriend painted a picture for my birthday of a picture that we took on our first date. The picture represents the memory of the first date. Gotcha. But and see, like one of the ways that so after we finish these videos, one of the things I do is call Angie to talk to her. Ain't gotta have a reason, just talk to her because that plays a part of the words of affirmation to give her that time to just talk to her. Even if I know I got shit to do, let me talk to her. Let me get it in there. Because I know it makes her feel good. It makes her happy. It makes her feel like I'm thinking about her. And when she is, dealing with things at work or people, then, I make sure I tell her how amazing she is and great she is, and intelligent she is. Actually, before she goes to work every day, I was just telling her how great she is and everything before she go to work. Then she started doing it a crazy way, which I just go ahead and play with as well because she goofy as hell. But it is what it is. He told me printed pics are things off people do. What? I don't even know what you said, Angie. Oops. Oh, he told me printed pics are things old people do. Yep, they are. Old people have print picture books. Everything's digital now. I don't need no damn book. That is old people stuff. You normalize 20-minute talks before coffee, minute talks over coffee before the kids get up. And that's pretty cool. Taking that time. Mm-hmm. That's why I'll take time and ask Angie things like, what would be a perfect date? What would be a perfect vacation? Um, Not just the basic, how was your day? Even though I ask her about her day every day. But, what are things, so and that's just giving time to her. And then I listen. Good. That did wonders for your relationship. It's the smallest things can have the biggest impact. If we really, if you, the 80-20 rule really is in effect that 20% of the things you do create 80% of your results. So if you can figure out what those 20 things, actually in this book that I have committed myself to writing, I have been writing, there's a whole section about the 20-80 rule and how it actually works. 20% of what you do creates 80% of the happiness. So if you can figure out what that 20% that makes your mate give them the most happiness, you focus on that 20%. You don't throw away the other 80, but you focus on that 20% so that they're getting that 80% of happiness, because nobody's going to fulfill you 100%. That's impossible, right? It ain't impossible, but it's unlikely. So you focus on that 20%. As long as nothing in that 80, and then if anything in that 80, and then it works opposite, 20% of what you do can create 80% of the unhappiness. You want to get rid of that 20%, and not, get rid of that, so that you're not giving them that 80%. Now, the 80% of things you do that gives them only 20% of their unhappiness, don't worry about that too much. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the 20% that makes them unhappy to get rid of, and 20% that makes them happy. Focus on that, and your relationship is going to be, you're going to have a pretty solid relationship. Nothing wrong with reminiscing, looking through photos, time together with your family, significant others, and loved ones. It helps bring back memories. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's why I like. I'm loving the fact that okay, so me and Angie, we've known each other for 2 years. We've been dating for a year and some change. Well, we've been together for a year and some change, and it's cool that now we have memories. We have some inside jokes. We're developing our own little side language where we can say something and y'all don't know shit about what we talking about. you know, so having those memories are great. Having those pictures that you can look through and see, you know, they're great. Like she likes costumes. I could care less. But Halloween, she want to dress up. Let's dress up. Want to have a costume party at the lounge? Let's have a costume party at the lounge. I saw this masquerade that these people were having. Sent it to her. I was like, hey, you want to go? Because I know she likes that. Do I care about it? No. But it makes her happy. And then to have the pictures from that and be able to look at it, like, oh, that is good quality time. And quality time is important to me. Let's say it again. I need to write that down. No, see, what you need to do is when I put this book up for pre-order, and I got to get to a certain part before the even though I've been told by somebody that I need to go ahead, not Angelina, but somebody else. So I want y'all saying, so it ain't towards her. I was told by somebody who said that I need to go ahead and start doing the pre-orders for this book now. No, because I want to be a certain distance into it where I know that I'm about done before I do pre-orders. But that's all in that book about the 80-20 rule. And there's a bunch of other stuff in there as well, of course. Sometimes participating in things that you don't care about, that your partner values, can often be joys in itself. Oh, most certainly. There are things that I get joy out of now that wasn't originally something from me, but me trying to please somebody else, and then wind up enjoying it myself. And so it became part of my whole ethos of how I get joy. To doing something new and changing your closed mindset. Yeah, because you can't be somebody who dealing with somebody with an open mindset and then you got a closed one, then y'all ain't gonna be happy because they're gonna always want to go do some stuff and you ain't gonna want to do it and y'all gonna have conflict. Somebody's gonna lose. So if you can open your mind, open it and go do it. But if you can't, then you need to get away from that person, let them find somebody with an open mind, and then you go find some other boring ass person and y'all go do y'all boring stuff. Yeah. Now, there are some things that some people have wanted, and I was like, there ain't no way in hell. And it just let me know, I got to get rid of you because there ain't no way. We're not doing that. You can kick rocks because that's just out far. If it's too far out of your comfort zone, then that's just not going to work. Like, one of the things for me, if you have to live in America for the rest of your life, it ain't going to work. I'm not living in America for nobody. Nobody. I stayed here for as long as I have because of my kids, but for the rest of my life, no. Got to go. So when when I was single, and somebody come try to talk to me, and I was like, so do you have to live in America for the rest of your life? Oh, well, yeah, because my grandkids or my mama or my brother, my sister, or this is what, you know what, this is not going to work. We can be friends, but this ain't gonna work. Still more than welcome to come hang out, but this ain't gonna. But you and I, not gonna work because I even told one person a marriage wouldn't keep me in America. I could be married to you, but when it's time to go, all right, let's go and get the paperwork done because I'm out. I don't give a damn how good everything else is. No. Average people ignore things like that and figure they will just change someone long term. Men do this, but women do it especially. And ladies, don't get mad at me. But you gotta stop trying to change somebody. Ain't nobody just stop. Just stop. If a person doesn't want to change for themselves, then leave them alone. Not that you can't show something to somebody, identify something to somebody, and then they say, you know what, I would like to make that change in my life. That's a good thing. That happens. But when a person is happy being however they are, and you try to change them, this ain't Build-A-Bear. Trauma said they're trying to build a brother. But yeah, you can't. You just let them be. Or deal with it. Or if it's something that's not a big deal, live with it. And same thing go for men. But I've just seen it more with women trying to change men than men trying to change women. If we were together long enough, you would just want to adopt what I want for us. Right. That's called control. That is control. I'm trying to control you. I'm going to isolate you. I'm going to put you in this situation. And I'm going to keep doing it and make you like it. No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. Because at some point, you'll be like, look, I ain't doing it. I ain't going. Bye. Go by yourself. Then that creates arguments and that creates problems. Because now you don't want to spend time with me. You don't want to. No. You selfish. You all about you. You a narcissist. No. You just don't want to do what you're doing. Just no. I'm not doing it. It's just that simple. I don't like it. They try to pull some inception and plant thoughts in him too. And all of a sudden he wanted to do it too. Yeah, see that was a movie. Not. It can happen. You can brainwash somebody like that, but no, we're not doing it. But it has been 3 hours and we have gone. I love how we start here and then we go over there and then we go back over there and then we go over there. Somebody join in right now and be like, hold on, I thought they were supposed to be talking about the Bible. They up here talking about relationships. But I have got some other videos to make, and then I gotta run and do some things. So I appreciate you guys. You guys have been great as always. I look forward to even more discussions. I look forward to finishing this book. I plan to do a good bit of writing this weekend. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to our discussion tomorrow. Tomorrow will be at a regular time since I'm going out of town tomorrow night. It won't be a nighttime one. We will do the video about, we'll be talking about Zoroastrianism and its effect on the Abrahamic religion, especially Christianity. So if you don't know anything about Zoroastrianism, you might want to go take a look at it first. And then we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And I'm out.